Today I'll be comparing the 28-75 f2.8 G2 VXD versus the 28-200 f2.8 to 5.6 RXD. Which one is right for you? Let's find out. The 28-200 is a variable aperture zoom, so it changes aperture as you zoom out. The 28-75 is a constant aperture zoom and it stays at f2.8 all throughout the range. Regardless of focal length, you get the repeatability, the consistency, and the predictability like alimony.
Wow!
Chapters provided in the description, so let's get started with build and handling. The 28-200 is plain like a midlife crisis father who owns a minivan. It's basic yet serviceable. The 28-75 G2, on the other hand, is built like a 20-year-old with curves in the right places, while the 28-200 is a bit flat. The differences here is that the 28-75 G2 feels more substantial, it's more solid, and it has a focus hold button that can be programmed for AB focus rack, aperture control, infinity focus, or used as a basic focus hold button. This can be done with a built-in USB-C port, no fiddling with lens stations involved. On the other hand, the 28-200 has a focus lock switch, which prevents it from sagging like an 80-year-old grandmother. It's a nice touch and a shame that it was omitted from the G2. Both lenses are weather sealed, have solid pedal hoods, and backed by Tamron's fantastic 6-year warranty. Winner in this category is the 28-75 G2. Next up is autofocus. Let's have a look. The Tamron 28-200 uses the RXD, which is the medium grade autofocus motors. The 28-75 G2 uses the VXD, which is the extreme torque high-end motors. Can you tell any difference here? I can't. However, maybe you can spot something. In the low light, this is where things change, and they change drastically. The 28-200 is at f4 at this point. That's the problem with being a variable aperture lens. If you're not at the widest angle, then you stop down and losing a whole stop of light when you're at 25.6. This is the result. 28-75, winner in this category. Alright, next up is sharpness. Is it going to be obvious? Wide open in the center. You can tell the 28-75 G2 is a little bit sharper. As you can see with this goal right here, it just has a little bit more detail compared to this side. You probably wouldn't even know about it if it wasn't side by side. Here's the mid frame, and you know, they're both good. And the 28-75 is a little bit sharper. This fencing material especially, it's a little bit more clear. At the edge, there is a significant difference. The G2 is much better. Same with the corners. At f5.6, it gets a little bit more interesting. The G2 is pin sharp. However, the 28-200 does have some detail. It's there. Going towards the edge, and yes, the trees is much more improved now. However, it does lag behind the 28-75 G2. I say mid-frame, they are neck and neck. Everything is sharp everywhere. Even this fence material improved a lot. And back in the center, it's about neck and neck. I can't see much difference. Here we are at 50 millimeters, and they are neck and neck in the center. Mid-frame, neck and neck. Keep in mind, these are the 28-200 is at f3.5 and the G2 is at f2.8 because it's a constant aperture zoom. Here is the edge, and they are essentially equal. You can see this fine detail in these leaves down here. And the corners, I would give a hair to the G2. It's not by a large margin. Stopping down to f8, and the G2 is barely ahead, but it is ahead. The 28-200 is very good at this point. At the edge, they are about equal. Mid-frame, as you can see, this text is nice and clear on both of them. And at the center, they have about equal sharpness. At 70 and 75 respectively, the 28-75 is a little bit softer. Keep in mind the 28-200 is at f4 because it's a variable aperture lens. Here's the mid frame, and the 20 to 200 is definitely sharper. And the edges, the 20 to 200, I mean, it's clearly sharper. Gymnasium is much clearer here, and this detail in these leaves, it's just like pin sharp. While the 20 to 75 is a little bit blurry. Stopping down to f8, both lenses have moderate improvement. 20 to 75 definitely closed in, however it is behind, and I'm kind of shocked. Here is the mid frame, and the 20 to 200 still maintains the lead. And the center, I'd say the 20 to 75 is a little bit sharper on the center. And we're going to do one more comparison. This is at 200, and we'll go to 100%. Look at this cactus detail. It is so crisp on the 20 to 200. It's crispy on the 20 to 75, but it's way less magnified. Here's the mid frame, and it's not an apples to apples comparison because the magnification is so different. I would say that 20 to 75 is sharper than the 20 to 200. And here's the edge. I mean, this is definitely clean, and you can see all these leaf details. So that's why the 20 to 200 is so highly rated, because it can go all the way to 200 and maintain a very high level of image quality. However, the 20 to 75 is technically better. I think the detail holds stronger here. It's just incredible what the 20 to 200 can do. For the overlapping range, I have to give the edge to the 28 to 75 G2. It was sharper on the wide, and it was sharper at 50 millimeters. Winner in this category. Next up is Bokeh, old generation versus new. Let's have a look. Here's full body. Both lenses are at f2.8. It might not be noticeable at first, but there is a difference in Bokeh. I say the left side is noticeably more clean. The right side is slightly busy. And if you haven't figured out already, the left is the 28 to 75 G2. The right is the 28 to 200. Now let's have a look at the full body. And you can see that the differences are much smaller now. You just can't see much blur at 28 millimeters and full body. Here's 35 millimeters. The G2 is at a larger f2.8, while the 20 to 200 has stopped down a tad bit. Here's the reveal. So it's not that big of a difference. However, you can tell. Here is a look at the full body. And it's similar at this point and distance. Moving to 70 millimeters, and there should be a stop of difference now. And now it becomes much more noticeable. And here is full body. The stop of difference is less noticeable at this distance. And here for kicks, we are gonna go to 200. At this distance, 75 millimeter f2.8 and 200 f5.6 give a dramatically different look. I would say for the technical quality of the Bokeh, the winner has to go to the Tamron 20 to 75 G2. It's smoother and creates more blur in the same range. All right, it's time for chromatic aberration and longitudinal chromatic aberration, aka Bokeh CA. Starting off with CA, here we are at 100%. The Tamron 20 to 75 is on the right, 28 to 200 on the left, and it's a clear that while the 20 to 75 has some LoCA, it's a lot less than the 20 to 200. And here's at the far end, and it remains the same. I mean, at the far end, they get closer. However, the 20 to 75 is still better. Here's the LoCA test on the wide end, and I can see some purpling already with the 20 to 200 and some greens. And with the 20 to 75, it's just much cleaner. I'm not saying that the 28 to 200 is bad. I'm just saying that the 28 to 75 is clearly in a different league. Here it is at the longer focal length, and it is pretty much on par. I mean, there's a little bit going on with the 28 to 200. It's not a lot, but they're at least very close at this point. So the winner in this category goes to the 28 to 75. Next up, we're going to see what it looks like when the sun hits these lenses, flare and Sunstars. When it comes to flare here, the two lenses side by side, both of them produce a minimum amount of flare. It's just not really a problem when it comes to these lenses. You see that even when I go to the longer focal lengths, it doesn't really produce any problems, at least to my eyes. And even all the way at 200 for the Tamron 28 to 200, it's just not much of a problem. And when it comes to the Sunstars, it is a different story. The 28 to 200 just cannot produce very pleasing Sunstars. If you're looking for this certain look, pointy stars, the 28 to 75 G2 does a much better job. Both lenses produce less dramatic effects as the longer focal lengths go. So this is mostly at the wider end where this is really prevalent. Winner in this category is the 20 to 75 G2. Which is better for video? We'll be looking at parfocal and focus breathing performance. Here we're going to determine parfocal performance. And looking side by side, there isn't much of a difference in that they're both out of focus fairly quick, and they just cannot maintain parfocal performance. Focus breathing on the wide end, if you look at one of the sides, the light is not even moving, it's completely still. However, the other frame, there is some expansion and contraction. Here is the reveal. Yes, this continues on with further focal lengths. This is around 50 millimeters, if I remember. At these focal lengths, if you want a lens that behaves the most well, it's the 28 to 200. The range difference is enormous, and it handles overall breathing better in most scenarios and better at the wide end, that's for sure. Winner in this category is the 22 to 200. Next up is size and range. Let's have a look. When you're looking at these lenses, they're virtually the same size, around 550 to 570 grams, 4.6 inches long, and they take 67 millimeter front filters. What's different is that this 28 to 200 goes to 200 obviously, and it does it with a dual stage zooming design. 200 millimeter f5.6 versus 75 millimeters f2.8. From my rough math, the 200 millimeters has a larger entrance pupil. So that means that the 28 to 200 is actually more efficient than the 28 to 75. Winner in this category is the 28 to 200. All right, the elephant in the room, the value. The 28 to 75 G2 comes in at $899. 28 to 200 comes in at $729. That's a price difference of roughly $170. They are very different lenses. However, I would say that the 20 to 200 is a better value, and for the reason it has a larger range. And there are different 28 to 70s on the market for a lower price, like the Sigma. So the G2 has real competition, like the G1, for instance. You could probably get on the used market for a lot less. However, there's nothing really like the 28 to 200. So winner in this category is the 28 to 200. Final thoughts. If you're using a high megapixel camera like the A7R Mark IV, like the A1, then you probably want the Tamron 28-75G2. It'll give you the high megapixels that you want. Or you're someone who wants the highest image quality, or you're someone that simply is really picky about image quality, the 28-75G2 is clearly ahead. It will also get you the lowest ISO when shooting in low light. However, the 28-200 is f2.8 through f4 with the overlapping range, so it can work in low light for you. Considering how good cameras are these days, f4, f2.8, it might be enough for you. It's fully weather sealed, it's durable, it is made by Tamron and can be updated in body. It has no real competition, and because the image quality is so high for that 7x zoom range, it is a unique lens. Maybe one day Sigma creates something that doesn't weigh a metric ton. Maybe one day Sony will create a 24-240 that isn't as soft as a luxury down pillow. But until then, the 20-200 is extremely hard to beat. Let me know in the comments below which one would you choose. Like, subscribe, share. See you in the next video. Take care.